He has become a mainstay of this show. Brigham Young and Baylor played last year. They'll play September the 10th, a Saturday, in Provo this fall. And Kalani Sitake, the head coach at Brigham Young, joins us, Sikkim 365 Radio. Coach, thank you very much for your time. I know you spring drills and all of that. Do you feel good about where you are and where you've been and what you've gotten done?
Yeah, of course. I mean, thanks for having me on, by the way. And I'm just really excited about this team and what we were able to accomplish with the 15 practices in spring ball. I think every coach should say that around this time, but really feel good about the progress that we've made from the end of the season to now, but also looking at getting some guys healthy and getting the team rolling in the off-season conditioning. We'll go through fall camp. It'll come up real quick, and we'll be on the 22 season, so looking forward to it.
This is your last season not being a part of the Big 12, so I imagine that's changed recruiting a little bit. How have you seen your Venn diagram change of kids that would go to BYU if you could have had the opportunities of being in a Power 5 conference, and knowing that now every kid in the 2023 class on is a Big 12 player when they come in?
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge bump for us in recruiting. More than anything, opens more ears and kind of widens the net for us in recruiting, where now players are interested, especially from the Midwest area and down there in Texas. These guys are really interested in what we stand for and what our program is about, looking into our culture, kind of taking a deep dive and interest and curiosity into our program. And when they do that, it allows us an opportunity to share what our place was about and what our team is about, and then hopefully it'll be a good fit. I think sometimes recruiting can turn into a sales pitch when it doesn't really have to be that way. For us, it's about the fit, getting young men that will fit our program, that they want to be part of something bigger than themselves, and it's right in line with the mission and values of what we're trying to get accomplished here as a program and as a university.
Coach, you guys had a great year last year. I mean, 10-3. Had two different 5-game winning streaks, and some tough games. But when you got a moment after the season, eventually to catch your breath and kind of sit down and start analyzing things, what were just sort of your overwhelming or general thoughts on the 2021 season?
Great learning experience for all of us. I mean, I think looking through the experience of being, an example is coming out there to Waco and playing the game against Baylor. We learned a lot about ourselves, but also a lot about what it takes to compete against a great team like Baylor. And obviously, look at what they did. They went on to win the conference. And so it gives you a boost of confidence knowing that, if we'd have done a little bit better and we played a little bit better, things have gone more our way. That's what you have to do. That has to be a given in order to compete with these great teams like Baylor and conference champions and teams that are at P5 level, but in the higher echelon of performance. And so, sometimes the given norm, the standard has to be raised a little bit, where you can't just make mistakes and think you're going to get through it and find a way out of it. Sometimes you need to just be a little bit more on point and make sure that those mistakes aren't happening as often as they were. But you give the experience of being there and being on that field and being in that environment, hostile environment. But it was really cool. I thought for the most part, our players enjoyed the experience of playing there, and even for the point of being on the field and competing against great players. Just when you play against teams that can beat you, and you have to be at your best, you definitely learn something regardless of the result. And it'd be foolish of me not to capitalize on the opportunity for us to learn as much as possible.
How much does it help, despite the obvious, when you have Jaron Hall, your quarterback, coming back?
Yeah, that helps. I mean, we knew losing Zach was going to be a huge. We try to convince him to stay, but being selected second overall is a good reason to leave. But we know Jaron's coming back, so that's good. But we knew going into the season that we'd feel good about Jaron. We feel good about our talent, and the only thing that was lacking was really the experience. So. After the 2021 experience, I feel good about what's returning to our program, but I also feel the need and the urgency to make sure that we close the gap on our depth from the first string to second string to third string. You need more than just the 11 starters on offense and 11 starters on defense. They definitely need more than 22 guys. So if the more starters we can get that are ready and available to play, the better we'll be suited for these tough teams, especially going into the Big 12 conference.
How many of your players are really kind of of football nerds, football geeks, when it comes to being able to absorb as many different, because you're an independent, so your schedule is never, you play some of the same teams all the time, but not like in a conference like you will, where you kind of have the same, you get to know people. For 4 years, you could maybe only see the same team twice a couple times, and you have to take in all these different styles and learn all these things. How many guys do you have that are really invested and know that because of the schedule you have to play and throwing different curveballs at them each week?
Well, I think it's kind of fresh and fun and exciting. And when you're in the independent scheduling, you have no choice but to make it a positive, right? And you say, hey, this year we're going to play a bunch of different new teams, and these are the three teams that we played the year before that will show up on our schedule again. You just have to spin it to where it works in our favor. Now, this is our last year in independence. We're going in to finish up this 22 season. It's a tough schedule, but it has a lot of people that are on there that we have to be at our best for all 12 of these opportunities that we have to play and represent. So, looking at that, I know from my point of view, when you're used to being in a conference and you just being familiar with the place. So when we go back and play in Waco, the guys that are young on our team have that experience of playing there in 21. And so now they can visualize what that field looks like, what the locker room feels like. And when it's all kind of brand new, sometimes you don't know any better. When you walk into a place like Knoxville, Tennessee, some of the guys are just kind of, because they're naive to it, they just don't know anybody. You just show up and you play, and before you know it, they don't realize that they played in a historic place and they actually grinded out a double overtime win. Now we know what to expect. We can kind of give these guys something, a visual, kind of look at the schedule that you can see from the future. It doesn't change too much other than the non-conference games, which is just a few. But the excitement and energy, that's been part of our program and our fan base for the entire time. So we're going to always lean on the excitement, the energy, the passion that we feel from our fans. And we want to do our best to make sure that our fans are happy. And I want to do my best to make sure that our players achieve and reach their goals and their dreams here at BYU.
What's it like to have practices and not have a familiar face in Tyler Algier back there at running back? And I know you've got some veterans, so how has that how's that room started to work out for you?
Well, change is always going to be different, and sometimes in when you're looking at college football, that's just attrition. You lose guys to the league, and some leave earlier than and don't use all their eligibility. But that's usually a good sign when guys are having opportunities and leaving early and getting to the league. And we're doing our best to get them to leave with a degree in their hand. With that extra COVID eligibility, most of these young men are going to graduate with their degree already done. And so a lot of our players are going to have their degree completed by the time we get to the season this fall. And that gives them a lot of confidence going into the season that way. But, when you have guys that are not part of the team, it's always changes an opportunity for someone to step up, make a huge impact, and have the coaches to just kind of catch the coach's eye and seeing that, hey, this guy could really help fill the void of a Tyler Algier and other players, So we know we're going to miss a lot of our veterans that left, but we're a young team, so we have most of our returning experience coming back. That's something we can really build on. And for the running back crew, a lot of carries now have to be divvied out and have to be earned in practice and competition. And that's made for a really interesting spring. Hopefully it carries on the offseason and goes into fall camp.
Kalani, how much time do you spend, if any at all, right now on the Big 12? As you do still have a year to go, as everyone has mentioned, the questions we've asked you, but how much time do you spend on that, if at all?
Well, I mean, we have to embrace it because that is part of the deal. We are going into the conference. We're excited about it. But I have to focus on the task at hand, which is this season. Mm-hmm. We are playing Baylor. They're coming to Provo. We did lose to them last year, so we're looking to try to have an improvement from our showing. And I thought it was, competitive game up until the end. I think they won by a couple scores, but we should be motivated by that game and competing against, Grimy and Mateos again. But I think we've learned quite a bit from that. But I want our guys to embrace the opportunities of going to the Big 12, but I also want them to respect the fact that there's a lot of young men on our team that are going into their senior year, going to their junior year, that they're going to be leaving after this year. And the respect means that we show them the love and appreciation for them by what we accomplished this year. But we're also in a time where we know what we're going in tomorrow, which is next year. I can tell you one thing: my bracket completely changed because there's a lot of Big 12 pride here with what we're trying to get done. So we're rooting for them, and so my Final Four might have had a way more Big 12 representation than I would normally have. And so I have to say that I did pick the champion, but I had a lot of. I'm looking at it. You look at the Big 12 and Baylor won that last year. You got Kansas this year, and you had. That's a monster division when it comes to athletics altogether, especially basketball. But I know that there's a lot of fans that were excited and I've felt it from Cougar Nation that they're really excited to be part of this conference, and you can see it in the way that they kind of cheer for the Big 12 conference to have a lot of a lot of success, and even if their team's not in the mix.
Do you guys go anywhere on the road where you don't expect to at least have enough fans to where you notice? Because there are fan bases that can't get all the places that your fans can. Just from the game here, I was overwhelmed driving in and seeing just as many BYU people as were here in Waco last year.
Yeah, I think it's always comforting knowing that our fans are going to show up, and it could be the nosebleeds way at the top of the area. They're going to be there. Even to give you some idea of what our fans and how awesome they are, we played against Boise, where fans were not allowed in the arena, in the stadium, and yet when we're driving from our hotel to the game, we had thousands of fans on the side of the streets cheering us on just on the drive. So we have a passionate fan base. They've always been big time. I'm looking forward to trying to make their dreams and their hopes and their expectations come true, and that's my job. But I am a fan as well, and it's just really, really happy. I'm really happy to be a part and honored to be a part of Cougar Nation, and our respect and appreciation, gratitude for a fan base that shows us appreciation, even when they can't enter the arena. They're just there to do their part, and I think this move of us getting to the Big 12 is a huge compliment to our fan base more than anything.
Coach, we can almost do, and anybody who covers college football almost do daily shows on stuff that has nothing to do with what's actually going on the field nowadays. Just between, NILs and recruiting and all those different types of things, it's a ever-changing world in college sports. You obviously love college sports, but when you look at it and you look at the future, is there a main concern that you have, or if you had the opportunity, if there was something that you could change, do you have anything in mind?
Well, I think the key is for our focus to be completely on the a couple things, to be on the young men and what's best for them in their transition. Right now, we have young men that are the young people are in college are going from their youth into a transition to becoming an adult, and our responsibility is to make sure to teach them and educate them to do that when they enter the world and the communities, to have a good footing and a good foundation in place. Sometimes money is not the answer when you just throw it at a bunch of young people, but being fiscally responsible, understanding finances, understanding how you can help people and how you can serve others is an avenue that I think we can approach here at BYU, and that other people should approach in college football. I think there's an opportunity for student athletes to get paid and be taken care of, but I don't know if you need to be having these fat bank accounts. I think sometimes you have to figure things out, and there's nothing wrong with budgeting and having a small bank account and going to college, but I also don't think you should have student debt. When you're a big time athlete, that we can do our best to take care of them. So I think if we can give them education, it doesn't really have to come in the form of money. It can come in the form of future financial stability and giving them something to work on. Maybe it's investments, maybe it's early retirement. There's a lot of things out there that we can educate these young men on, these young student athletes, in regards to NIL. But as long as there's stuff moving and there's innovation going on, we have to adapt with the times, but we also can take a different approach. I believe college football should stay at an amateur level, but I also believe that there's a way we can make it work for everybody, specifically the student athletes involved.
We had you on last year when you had that contract extension, and you made it about everything but you, because it all is about the program itself. I'm not so sure who was more humble after an extension, you or Dave Aranda, who probably never wanted his even announced. You're very similar in many, many ways, aren't you?
Well, I've known Dave for a long time, and we knew each other when we were nobodies, and we still are nobodies. But I think the one thing that I appreciate about Dave Aranda is that his focus is on people, and I've known him a long time. I see what he's done, and he stays extremely humble. It's always going to be good times for people when you can have wonderful people keeping you in check. I think for me, I never got here on my own, so why would I ever think it's about me? And then, college football should never be about one person. So why would it be about one coach? Why would it be about one player? We're all in this together. And listen, Dave Aranda didn't get into this for money, neither did I. And it just happens that we're having success. Things are going well for us. But the emphasis and the focus will always be on the student athletes, and then embracing it and enjoying the wonderful spectacle of college football. I just love being involved with college football and seeing the fan bases, even on opponents. I love being out there. When we came and played Baylor, I thought that was such a cool experience and a lot of fun. Even though the result didn't go our way, there's a lot of things that you can really take away from that, and I'm just honored to be a part of it. I know Dave is the same.
Kalani, we appreciate your time. You've given it a lot of it to us the last month since September. Thanks for your time. Hope to have you on that week soon before you play Baylor. And thanks for your time. Have a great rest of the school year.
I'd love to be on. Thank you for the time.
Yeah,
Thank
you too. That's Kalani Sitake, head coach at Brigham Young. Baylor last year, 38-24. First time back in 1984 was 47-13.
Yeah.
Baylor's won twice and Brigham Young's won once.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who will be favored in that game by the time it rolls around. I mean, at this point, to put out predictions, I mean, there's some that obviously you can probably go down Alabama's schedule and feel pretty confident picking a bunch of wins. You can go down Baylor's schedule and probably feel confident picking out 5, 6, 7 wins or something like that. But, yeah, I don't know with that BYU game. I mean, with it being on the road, that will be very interesting. But it was a competitive game until Baylor just kind of made a couple extra plays to create some separation, and then that defense, once they get a bit of a lead, it's really hard to do much about that. So that was a fun game, and I'm sure round 2 will be fun as well. But with them playing that non-conference schedule, the entire schedule is a non-conference schedule. I mean, before they even hit mid-October, they will have played Notre Dame, Oregon, and Baylor. Notre Dame, Oregon, and Baylor before October, and not to mention South Florida in there and Wyoming in there and Utah State in there. But, yeah, they play Baylor at home, and then they go to Eugene the very next week. So that'll be an interesting little 2 weeks there for BYU football, but a fun 2 weeks.
I mean, you can't say their schedule is going to actually get a little easier.
Yes.
When it comes to the Big 12, because nobody in the country would do Baylor, Oregon, and I'm leaving out Utah State, who's their rival. Notre Dame, Arkansas, Boise State, and Stanford.
Yeah, there's not many. Notre Dame's about the only one that might have something similar to that. And you have some of those rivalry games as well. I agree. Yeah. So that game is on September the 10th, I think it is, up in Provo. And, oh, by the way, on Sikkim365.com, Brian Etheridge is working with a group about a trip deal where it's a 2-night stay, I believe, in Provo, and there's all sorts of activities and events and all that, and food and tailgating and drinks and all what you want. Go to Sikkim365.com in the premium section for that information. When we come back, baseball.